Hi everybody, welcome back to a very festive, as you can tell, episode of Flormagoria, the last of the year, being that it's, the end of December, and that there hasn't been much gardening to do since I pulled all my plants out, but we'll see what the new year brings for the show. So, I'm your favorite kitchen witch, Susie Bianco, and welcome to my living room once again. And as you can see, I kind of decorated. Sort of, I got my little Tomty here. The rest of the year, he's just a little gnome named Gnome Chomsky. My little candle that my grandmother gave me, my Yule Bach, and I don't know if you can see it on camera. Plus, my very favorite Little Orphan Annie scarf from I don't know how old this is, but I had it when I was little, so. So we are all enjoying the Yuletide here in Castle Kitchen Witch, I suppose. Today, instead of talking about gardening, we're going to talk about something that for a long time I thought was very specific to the Appalachians, which is the area that I'm from and have lived here all my life. And honestly, couldn't imagine living anywhere else, quite frankly, because I love it. We're going to talk about the pomander. Yeah, I know, it doesn't look like much. It's like, didn't you just stick a bunch of crap in an orange? I did stick a bunch of crap in an orange. Well, I did stick one specific kind of crap in an orange. But the history of pomander is actually very interesting. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any of that history that dates specifically to Appalachia or the Ozarks, which is kind of our less cool cousins. Sorry, Ozark people, but you know it's true. So, unfortunately, yeah, it seems to be more of an oral tradition that people do. There's not really a lot of history that I was able to dig up about it, which I was kind of surprised about, because if you talk to anybody who's from this area, who has hillbilly relatives from Appalachia, at some point they probably made one of these. I know when I was a kid, I was introduced to these after my parents divorced. My mom and I moved in with my grandmother and a bunch of my uncles, and my grandfather, of course. My grandfather was there, and out in the country, and she and I used to make these sometimes around Christmas time. And it was always a great memory, so I started doing it again as an adult, sort of in her honor, sort of. I mean, she's still around, obviously. I'm going there for Christmas. I was there for Thanksgiving, but, she and I don't have as great a relationship as I have always wanted. I think we're too alike, to be perfectly honest, but, it's just little things that sort of make me feel closer to her, like keeping traditions that we had when I was a kid. And this is one of them. So, being that I couldn't find any history of the pomander in Appalachia, I went looking and found history of the pomander going all the way back to medieval Europe. Actually, about the mid-12th century is when they were first recorded. Now, the pomander, in its original form, which was nothing like this, was actually a small silver sort of locket with holes in it. I'm going to put up a picture of an extant medieval pomander. And so what they would do was they would pack that with spices, dried fruits, flower petals, especially roses, and it was sort of like a small perfume ball that they would carry around. It was used for religious ceremonies sometimes. I think it was related to, if I had to take a guess, I would say it was probably something akin to the incense, the censer that people swing in Catholic ceremonies, but don't quote me on that, because it literally just occurred to me and I haven't had time to look it up. So it had very limited use, but it stayed around for a long time. And by the Renaissance in Europe, well, we'll say early British Renaissance, 1400s, late, sort of in the middle between the Italian and the British Renaissances. We'll say 1400s, maybe 1500s. What's the matter, Day Day? My cat's yelling. You want to come here and be on camera? No? Okay. But they started to change a little bit, where people would actually start using dried fruits wrapped in cloves. They would cook down these mixtures, sort of like potpourri. Cook it in oil, cook it in water, and sort of mush it together into an apple shape, which, now that I'm thinking about it, I completely forgot to mention, but the word pomander comes from the French term pomme d'ambre, which is, well, pomme being apple, which they use to describe a lot of stuff in French, like the potato. This is pomme de terre, or earth apple. And if you have the song Earth Angel in your head right now, you're welcome, because that's literally what I get stuck in my head every time I say the word earth apple. It's hard, right? It's hard not to. So, but it was called pomme d'ambre. I'm not pronouncing that right. I am not nearly as well researched for this episode as I should be, because I have an extreme dislike of this time of year. So, anyway, the pomme being the shape, because it looked like a small apple, usually out of metal, and the amber being that it was a lot of times used ambergris in it. Ambergris is very illegal nowadays because it is an expulsion of a sperm whale. I mean, you've all seen the Bob's Burgers episode. I hope. If you haven't, go watch the Bob's Burgers episode and all the other episodes, because it's an amazing show. Anyway, so ambergris for a long time was used as the basis of perfumes, and so it makes sense that if you have a small perfume ball, you would stick ambergris in it as sort of a basis for all the other scents you can put in. And so anyway, during the Renaissance, instead of just putting all this stuff loose into a little metal capsule, they would literally cook down spices, herbs, fruit, rose petals, in sort of like a potpourri type of dish, and then grab it and form it into a ball and sort of wear that in their little capsules. Which I'm hoping you can kind of understand where this comes from, this idea. Because if you take a bunch of spices and fruit and smush it into a ball, it kind of looks like this, you know, and then you just take out some of the flower petals and the baking, and you end up with an orange with cloves in it. Literally, I have no idea how it ended up going from that to this. That's my only idea. This is all I got. It kind of makes sense in my head, but now that I'm saying it, it really doesn't make sense. But, so anyway, what kept on after the boiling of everything and the smushing it into a ball was this. And it smells amazing. And yes, it is an orange with cloves in it, but there's something more to it. It's history, it's tradition, you know, and it's for families, hillbilly families, you know, redneck families in this part of the world. Sometimes we're a little displaced, you know. I mean, we're white, so there's really only so much displacement that's taking place. But, you know, it's sometimes it's a nice little oral tradition. Well, I guess it's not an oral tradition, but it's hard to find any written resources of it. So I think it's just something that people do in families, and they pass it along through generations, and that's kind of special. So, I know you're asking, what do I do? Well, it's very easy. You take an orange. You look at the orange. Is it a pretty orange? It is a pretty orange. Oh, I still have the sticker on. Take the sticker off. Just like picking a pumpkin for a jack-o'-lantern. Is it pretty? Yeah, it's pretty. Is it symmetrical? Kinda. I mean, it's an orange. So what you will need to make our lovely little pomanders are oranges, cloves, maybe a pen, stabby things of your choice, some ribbon, maybe some beading wire. maybe a grapefruit or some mandarins. It doesn't have to just be oranges. You can mix it up a little bit. I mean, I was going to buy mandarins for this example, but all they had were like bags of like 20 for like $5, and it's like I'm not going to eat 20 mandarins or 20 tangerines for that matter. So, you know, put a potato in. It's okay. There are no rules. Not anymore. So, what you want to do is think of a design. Like this guy, pretty simple. I just put in variegating lines about the width of my finger the whole way across. It's pretty simple. You can be a little bit more interesting with it if you want. I've seen people take lemon citrus reamers and do designs on them around the cloves, sometimes where the cloves sit. It doesn't matter. But what you can do is just take a pen, and if it'll write, if this pen is not writing, maybe a marker, maybe a Sharpie would be better. Take a Sharpie. Ignore that I said pen. Pretend this is a Sharpie. I was not prepared for this. You know, make some dots around. Sometimes what I like to do is just, you know, go in a spiral. Whoop. And then take a pokey thing of your choice. See here I have my meat thermometer, very pokey, an X-Acto knife, my trusty old paring knife, a big meat fork, which you only need really one of those unless you want to, well, you could use both, and a very tiny Phillips head screwdriver. But really the point of it is you want to, you know, make a tiny hole through the thick part of the peel. You don't want to make, you know, bore a large hole into it because the cloves will fall out. I've had that happen. It's embarrassing. So, take your cloves. And, oh, by the way, if you want to use like a sewing thimble for this or like a heavy duty work glove, it's not a bad idea because I guarantee you your finger meat, like the pads on the top, are going to hurt after you're done with this. Because it's, yeah, they're kind of sharp. They're a little pointy. And, so, okay, I'm going to close this before the battery dies. Going to take my X-Acto knife here and just make a couple of little, points. Try to keep them about 1/4 of an inch apart because the cloves will have a drying effect on the orange. Asterisk. We hope that the cloves will have a drying effect on the orange. Now, if you're not careful, well, let me back up. If you want, what I like to do is, when I'm done, I take a pretty bowl and display them, you know, because I think they look nice, and I don't put up a tree because I don't really celebrate Christmas. I'm more of a Yule fan, personally. So, I'll just, you know, leave them out for display somewhere. Though you can take a ribbon, wrap it around, and, see if I can do this on camera. I haven't practiced it. Oh yeah, I rock. I do not rock. I lost it. There we go. Well, it's a little long, but you get the idea. You could put a ribbon around, put the cloves around the ribbon, and hang it on your tree. Now, I found that a beading wire or like clothes hanger, a metal clothes hanger, actually works pretty well for that. Just sort of slide it up through, try to get it through the center as much as you can, and tie a small loop on the bottom, or put a little bead in it. Tie a larger loop on the top, and then you can put a little ribbon on the top and hang it on your tree like that, so you don't have to try to, deal with slippery ribbon knots. If you want. I've done that before. When I first started making these was one of the last years I actually put up a tree, so I meticulously shoved a bunch of beading wire up a bunch of oranges. It was not fun, but it looked beautiful. But anyway, so putting, if you decide to go that route, it does work pretty well, because you're going to be ensuring that there's going to be a lot of airflow to it, so it won't mold. There's still a lot of liquid in this orange, but given that it has adequate airflow, the cloves will actually help dry this out. So you can even use it after the holidays are done. If it totally dries out, stick it in a sock drawer. People do that with cedar still, right? You can tell I was born in the 80s. People always had cedar stuff in their sock drawers. I never understood it because I was a kid. But, or, keep it to put on your tree year after year. That works too. But there are other ways to dry this. And one way that I've found that seems to work the best is by taking, when you're done putting your cloves in, which is very easy. I said it's very easy. It's not being easy for me. There we go. You can, there's something called orris root powder. It's the powdered root of a certain type of lilies. It can cause allergic reactions to some people. I've never tried it myself, but I saw it highly recommended on other sites on the internet, trying it. Basically, once you're done with this, you combine some cinnamon and some ginger, I believe, and this orris root powder. Glob it all over the orange so that there is no peel showing, and then do what we did when we had our herb drying episode. Cut some holes in a paper lunch bag, stick the pomanders in there, and just hang them up for a while. Once everything's dry, you can wipe all of the powder off, and you'll have a nicely preserved little pomander. But if you don't want to go through all that trouble, and I understand, because I don't want to go through all that trouble, just making sure that you, turn them regularly so that they don't start to mold. They will dry on their own, and it smells just wonderful. It just brightens up the whole room, especially this time of year, because seasonal affective disorder is a thing, which I have. Even though seasonal affective disorder was changed in the last version of the DSM, and I don't know what it's reclassified as, and it doesn't make any sense that they reclassified it. But whatever that is now, I have that, and it sucks. And having something that smells super good, just hanging out in your house. Sometimes when I'm at work, I just pick them up and smell them. It just brightens my whole day up. It's really wonderful. I may not get any vitamin D, but damn it, I can pretend like I am. Of course, save a few oranges for eating. 'Tis a season. So yeah, I mean, that is, it's actually fairly easy. Something fun you can do with kids. They can, design their own shapes, how they want to put their clothes on themselves. Let them be a little bit creative, It's just a nice tradition to pass down. At least I think so. I don't have any kids, and I'm not planning on having kids, so that's why I have this show. But, yeah, I mean, it's lovely, and it smells good. And, it is, I don't know, again, if this was something used in ancient forms of witchcraft, but in more modern forms, it is considered a little bit of a good luck symbol, which I can understand, because anything that smells this good, it really can't be bad luck, So So, even as I was talking, I made a nice little design. Um, Something fun to, put on Rudolph or Frosty or some insipid holiday cartoon with your children and let them go crazy. But make sure you get them thimbles because, man, these things do hurt. They are little stabby pains in the butt. But, there we go. Well, I'm not going to do this whole thing. You've seen what the finished version can look like. But, so, I guess that's about it for this episode that I was just thoroughly unprepared for, and I apologize for that. I couldn't find the research that I was hoping was out there, and it wasn't out there, but that's okay. So, yeah, if you're not from Appalachia, even if you are from Appalachia and you've never heard of this, I hope this can turn into something fun for you and your family. It's just nice, and it smells good. It's always nice too. But so for all of us here, which is me and my loud cats, which you heard, at Flora Magoria, happy holidays and happy Yule for those of you who celebrate it. And for those of you who don't, happy whatever you celebrate. It's all good. Just be nice to each other, okay? We'll see you next year. Bye.